Okay, we talked about research, technologies, and so on. And one of the major projects in California is the high-speed train that has to connect Sacramento with Los Angeles and so on and so on. And I think the first construction part started a couple of weeks ago. I also understand that Kern County has some kind of a critical stand on the new high-speed train. So what is your and Kern County's position on that project?
High-speed rail, I have some history with it because I was around the city council when it was discussed there. What it is turning out to be is nothing like it was described in the beginning. The project itself, the cost is nowhere close to what authority, and to reiterate our support for what will be one of the first major pieces of the high-speed rail project if it's ever built, and that's what's called the heavy maintenance facility. There's going to be some place along that project where they're going to do maintenance on the cars. It would provide lots and lots of jobs, probably 1,500 permanent jobs at the site and thousands of construction jobs. Doesn't mean we like the project. That means if it's going to happen over our objections and over our requests for some attention to some issues that it's causing, that we ought to get some of the benefit of it if there's going to be any. But they still have not. You would think at this point, after they're breaking ground, which they stuck a shovel in the ground, I don't know how far they really got, but they still don't know how to get over the Tehachapi Pass. Tehachapi Mountains. They do not know right now how to do that.
You're kidding me.
I'm not kidding you.
Okay. So
That to me seems like a problem.
yeah, and they did not, hire a German engineering company, which is also a problem in itself. But so because the interesting thing is, is that high-speed trains exist basically on large scales all over the world since the 1980s, and you wonder why now, 30, 40 years later, California says, oh, this is the future. It's kind of an old future already.
Yeah, we're using, or what's had nothing to do with us, steel wheel technology, when maglev was probably, from what little I know engineer, what little I know about it, that probably seems superior. Why they didn't choose it, I don't know. There's lots of things that have happened along the way that I thought I probably wouldn't have done that. If I really thought this was a good idea, I don't think I'd have gone that direction. But they did.
What is the main, so you had two kind of objections or concerns. One is the tremendous amount of money that will be put, I think 70 million or something, in that project.
It's huge amounts of, the cost is way over what they thought it was going to be. But when it was described in the beginning, it was mostly at grade. Now we find out, no, it's 40, 50, 60 feet in the air, and we need 50 to 100 feet of right-of-way on either side of the track. And it'll be fenced with, a chain link fence on either side. That was never described in the beginning. It was more of a monorail type situation. And if you had told all these...
How do you do that? I'm just curious. If you fence it all the way through the Central Valley, you basically create two Central Valleys, right? One to the west, one to the east.
And that's one of the big complaints by a lot of the farming interests, that, just because you run your train through the middle of my farm, I got to get my equipment from one side to the other. It's as though they didn't think about little things like that. I've heard also from people who, now this is anecdotal evidence, that a bunch of utility people were sitting around a table talking one day, and the subject came up, high-speed rail, and they all laughed because they said, at that time anyway, this is a few years ago, you know, they haven't even contacted us to find out how to electrify the track. We can't do that. We don't have the capacity right now to do that. So we may end up with a track, might not have any electricity. We may end up with a track with no electricity and no trains. But we'll have I mean, I hope it's not as bad as what I think it is, but this is a very long-term project.
It's a very long-term. The question may even be is whether that project, once it is finished in 20 years or so, is already
obsolete
because, you know, Scotty Beam Me Up has become reality.
You know, the Elon Musk's idea of the, whatever he called that thing, the hyperlink
The
or
capsules,
the tube, it's a vacuum.
Yeah.
My money is go with Elon over the High-Speed Rail Authority.
Okay. Last, which is kind of also fitting into this, dealing with challenges and threats on county level. So in Kern County, we currently have it's a very, you know, active threat, already a disaster kind of with a drought. So what is your thought on, I would not say the fact, on the threat that the drought continues for a couple more years, not just 2015, which is clear that we don't have enough water at all, because there was no rain, no snow. But what is the Kern County thought, idea, whatever it is, on how to prepare or how to deal with the situation if the drought goes on for a couple more years?
That's a question that is getting talked about all over the county. And there isn't going to be an answer to that. But the consequences that you're going to see, I think, are, and this is another shoe to drop potentially for the county budget-wise. You're gonna end up seeing, I don't think there's any question, you're gonna see land that is currently in agricultural production come out of agricultural production. That'll be a lot easier on the people that are growing, that don't have permanent crops. They don't have trees planted. They're growing carrots or potatoes or things that they could rotate, things that they could fallow their land for a growing cycle or a season. Because then they just have the carrying cost of their land, and they're not worried about bringing water in for that tree that whole year. But you're going to see land come out of production. Now, what happens when that happens? You're going to see, I got to believe that the farmers that are no longer growing as many crops on their property are going to turn to the county and say, my land is not worth what you think it is, therefore I want a reduction in my property tax, my property valuation and my property tax. We're probably going to see, it wouldn't surprise me, and this should play out over multiple years, I think. We'll see lower property tax revenues from the agricultural properties as well. That might be mitigated somewhat due to the Williamson Act, and that's a whole other conversation, but that's not a positive. So the article that was in the newspaper coincidentally today in the Californian, and I think you're going to be running, expresses my support for what's called the Bay Delta Conservation Plan. That's the dual tunnels that bring the water down the valley. And there's a lot more we can talk about that, but that's a project that would bring some much needed water to the valley. That I think of all the plans that I've seen, and that's really the only one that's got a shot at doing that. So that's one potential answer, but that won't even fix the whole problem. And that's a multi-billion-dollar project, which I think is far more important than high-speed rail.
Yeah, I can see that. Okay, anything else you would like to add? Because I think we are at the end of our questions.
No, I just appreciate the mountain communities, people that, we hear from a lot of them. And frankly, you know what I could say is if you are hearing this and you think you have an answer, I don't care how, I don't care what saves us, $1, a penny, $10, $1 million, whatever you think whatever you see that government can be doing differently, cheaper, better, faster, we want to know about it. Because not all the good ideas are going to come out of the county administrative office where I work. A lot of good ideas come from the community, just regular people that see things that things ought to be done a little better. So I would invite people to reach out to us. We may use your idea. We'll give you credit for it if we do.